Well, dear ones, that storm hit with a vengeance that very night, just like I'd been hoping it would. Oh, don't give me that look. I may be old, but I didn't control the weather. Though I will say the timing was absolutely perfect for what those two dear souls needed most. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, and nothing to do but finally talk to each other. By midnight, we had nearly 2 feet of snow on the ground, and those power lines were groaning under the weight of ice. The power went out at 3 in the morning, Mother Nature's way of making sure they had no distractions from each other. I was sitting in my chair, wrapped in that beautiful quilt, when Linda and Tom came to check on me, worried that an old woman might be frightened. As if I hadn't lived through more power outages than they'd had hot dinners, but it was sweet, you know. The first time in months they'd moved together with genuine concern. Well, I said cheerfully, I suppose this means we'll be having a real old-fashioned family day today. No television, no computers, no distractions, just us. By morning, we were completely snowed in. Drifts reached nearly to the first floor windows. They were truly trapped together, just like this old grandmother had been praying for. I watched them making coffee on the gas stove and building up the fire, working together without that careful politeness that had defined their interactions for months. Maybe it was the extraordinary circumstances, or maybe it was our conversations from the night before, but something had shifted between them. This reminds me of that ice storm when the kids were little, Tom said. Remember, we lost power for 3 days. Sarah was maybe 8, Linda remembered, warmth in her voice, and she was convinced it was the most exciting thing that had ever happened. They worked together to make that living room comfortable, dragging mattresses downstairs, setting up a cozy camp around the fireplace. It felt like preparing for an adventure rather than enduring a crisis. This was the first time in months they'd worked toward a common goal without any tension. As the day progressed, I could feel time slowing down to the pace it should move at. We played cards by firelight, shared stories, and they actually talked to each other, really talked for the first time in I don't know how long. That afternoon, I decided it was time for what I called the conversation we should have had months ago. I settled myself in the armchair closest to the fire and fixed both Linda and Tom with my most serious look. Now then, I began, I want you both to tell me and each other what went wrong. Not the surface things, but the real problems that led you to this point. I don't know if that's a good idea, Nana, Linda said carefully. We might say things that hurt each other. You've already hurt each other, I pointed out gently but firmly. The question is whether you're going to keep hiding from that hurt or finally deal with it so you can heal. Tom spoke first. I think I stopped seeing Linda as Linda somewhere along the way. She became the kids' mother, or my wife, but I lost track of who she actually was as a person. That's exactly what happened to me too, Linda said. You became the provider, or Sarah's father. I forgot that you were Tom, the man who used to make me laugh until my sides hurt. When did we become roles instead of people? Tom asked. Gradually, Linda answered. So gradually that I didn't notice it happening until one day I looked at you and realized I felt like I was living with a stranger. I watched as they continued talking, really talking about fear. Fear of conflict, fear of disappointment, fear of vulnerability, how they'd both gotten so afraid of hurting each other that they stopped being real with each other. So how do we get past that? Linda asked. You start by remembering that you're on the same team, I told them. You're not adversaries trying to protect yourselves from each other. You're partners trying to build a life together. And partners sometimes disagree, sometimes disappoint each other, sometimes have bad days. but they don't abandon ship the first time things get difficult. Then I showed them a photograph, one of them at some backyard barbecue, both laughing at something off camera. Look at your body language, I said. Tom, your hand is on Linda's back, supportively. Linda, you're leaning toward Tom like he's your safe harbor. You trust each other.
That's what I want back, Tom said quietly. I want to be your safe harbor again, Linda. I want that too, Linda whispered, tears flowing. But I don't know how to get there from here. We've hurt each other so much. One brick at a time, I said firmly. You tear down walls the same way you build them, one brick at a time, with patience and determination. Then I showed them the most important photograph of all, a completely ordinary picture of them at their kitchen table on some random morning, coffee cups between them, newspapers scattered around, both reading. Nothing special about it at all, except for the comfortable intimacy of two people sharing space and silence. This, I told them, is what real love looks like most of the time. Not the wedding day drama or grand romantic gestures, but the quiet daily choice to share your life with someone. The willingness to be boring together, to be ordinary together, to show up for each other even when it's not exciting. I watched understanding dawn on Linda's face. We stopped being willing to be ordinary together. We started expecting every interaction to be either perfect or awful instead of just normal. Exactly, I said. You forgot that marriage is mostly made up of Tuesday mornings and grocery store trips. The magic isn't in avoiding those ordinary moments, it's in choosing to experience them together. That evening, as the storm finally began to calm, Linda looked at Tom with new eyes. I want to try, she said. I want to try to remember how to be ordinary together. I want to try to remember how to be a team. I want that too, Tom said, more than anything. Over the next 2 days, as we remained snowed in, I watched them begin the slow work of rebuilding. They started with small things, making coffee for each other, actually listening, touching hands briefly when they passed. They also began talking about the future in concrete terms, not grand plans, but simple commitments to daily choices that would nurture their relationship. I want to start doing the Sunday crossword together again, Tom said. I'd like that, Linda replied. And I want us to have dinner together every night, really together. No phones during dinner, Tom agreed. And maybe we could take walks together after work like we used to. They were small things, ordinary things, but I could feel their power. These weren't dramatic gestures designed to fix everything overnight. They were daily practices that would slowly rebuild the intimacy they'd lost. On the third morning, I woke to sunlight and the sound of snowplows. The storm was over, and soon normal life would resume. But something fundamental had shifted. I found Tom making heart-shaped pancakes in the kitchen. Heart-shaped, while I supervised from my chair. After breakfast, I made my announcement. Margaret called. The roads are clear, and she's coming to get me this afternoon. So soon? Linda said, and I could hear genuine disappointment. Your wrist isn't even fully healed yet. My wrist is fine, dear. And my work here is done. You two don't need an old woman hovering over you anymore. You need time to practice being married again. That afternoon, as they helped me pack, Linda hugged me carefully. Thank you for saving my marriage. Oh, sweetheart, I said, looking her in the eye. I didn't save your marriage. You and Tom did that yourselves. I just reminded you what you were fighting for. I turned to Tom. Remember what I told you about gardens? Love is like tending a garden. It requires daily attention, regular watering, and patience for things to grow. But when you put in the work, the harvest is beyond anything you could imagine. Now, dear ones, let me tell you what happened next. 3 months later, when I was settled into my lovely assisted living apartment, Linda came to visit me every Tuesday afternoon. You look happy, dear, I observed one particular Tuesday. I am happy, she said. And I could hear the truth of it. Tom and I, we're good, Nana. Really good. Not perfect, but good. Perfect is overrated anyway, I told her. Good is much more sustainable. She told me they were still doing the crossword every Sunday morning, still taking evening walks, still having dinner together every night with no phones. Last week we discovered the Hendersons planted the most gorgeous rose garden, she said. We must have walked past it 100 times, but we were always too busy to really notice. That's what happens when you slow down and pay attention to your life, I said. You start seeing beauty you never knew was there. And those divorce papers? Shredded months ago. That desperate woman who sat outside the lawyer's office seems like someone from another lifetime. Someone who had forgotten that love isn't something that happens to you, but something you choose to create, day after day, in a million small ways. These days, Tom meets Linda at the door every evening, and they actually talk about their days like the answers matter. Because they do matter when you're doing life together. You see, dear ones, love isn't about finding someone who never disappoints you or challenges you. Love is about finding someone you can promise to choose, again and again, through all the ordinary days and extraordinary challenges that make up a real life together. And sometimes, when people forget how to make that promise to each other, all they need is a grandmother with a broken wrist and an unshakable faith in the power of love to show them the way home. That's my gift to you today. The lesson I learned in 82 years of living. Love is not something that happens to you. Love is something you do, every day, in small ways and large ones, until it becomes as natural as breathing and as essential as air. Choose love, dear ones. Choose it again and again, especially when it's hard. Because the couples who make it aren't the lucky ones who never face difficulties. They're the ones who keep choosing each other, one ordinary day at a time, until those ordinary days add up to an extraordinary life together. And that is how a grandmother's love helped reshape not just one marriage, but taught a whole family what it really means to choose love every single day. Now, dear ones, I want to hear from you one last time. After hearing Linda and Tom's story, what's one small thing you're going to do today to choose love in your own life? Maybe it's calling someone you've been meaning to reach out to. Maybe it's forgiving someone who hurt you. Maybe it's just making coffee for your spouse the way they like it. Share your commitment in the comments below, because when we declare our intentions out loud, we're more likely to follow through, and your small choice might inspire someone else to make theirs.